So you don't understand how EVs, IVs and natures work, then congratulations, you're in the right place. My name is Berg, and in today's video I'll try to explain to you best how EVs, IVs and natures works in competitive Pokemon, and how they can help you turn your Pokemon into an absolute unit of a powerhouse. So let's jump right into things. First, let's start off with effort values, or for short EVs. EVs are crucial for the way you shape your Pokemon and can be what decides whether you survive just barely or go down. EVs are earned either through battles, vitamins, feathers, training in Sword and Shield, or mochis. The most common way to EV train your Pokemon, however, is with the vitamins and in-game battles. If you want to learn more about how you can EV train your Pokemon, then I suggest you check out this video I made, but finish this one first. Essentially, one vitamin, whether it's a protein or calcium, gains your Pokemon 10 EV stat points and the respective stat which the vitamins represent. So for example, if you give Urshifu 20 proteins, that means it'll gain 200 attack stats. A Pokemon can be given a maximum of 510 EVs, but only 252 of those EVs can go into one single stat, so you need to choose your EV distribution carefully. This essentially means that you can actually only max out 2 stats per Pokemon. For an example, my Raging Bolt in my latest tournament had a max HP and max special attack stat invested, and the 4 remaining EVs were invested into defense. This means that my Raging Bolt gained a whopping 32 extra stats in both HP and special attack, and only 1 in its defense stat. The first 4 IVs you invest into the stat of a Pokemon will add 1 extra stat point per Pokemon stat. After the first 4 EVs, your stat point goes up only if you invest 8 more, so it doesn't matter if you invest 4 more, it won't go up. So this essentially means that if I wanted to invest my EVs into special attack to gain 1 point, I would have to invest 4 EVs in the beginning, but if I wanted my EVs in special attack to go further up, I would have to invest 8 EVs instead of just 4. That means my Raging Ball went from having a 200 base HP stat to a 232 HP stat, and it went from having 172 special attack stat to a 207. And since I had 4 EVs left, I just put them into defense, which then just bumped it up for 1 point. I know this might be a little bit confusing, but try to watch this segment of the video a couple more times to see if it makes more and more sense. Now, let's move on to individual values, or for short, IVs. IVs are individual values which a Pokemon gains when it's either hatched or caught. These stats help with the potential growth of the Pokemon. Each IV stat has a number which range between 0 to 31, with 0 being the worst and 31 the best. In some cases, a 0 IV speed Pokemon can be good for Trick Room teams. For an example, since the slowest Pokemon moves first. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, after you've completed the game and beat the Elite Four, you'll gain access to be able to check your IVs. All you have to do is hit the plus twice and you can see your IV stat. You'll be able to see your Pokemon is either gonna have a no good, which is equal to 0 IV bonus points. You can also see decent, which can range from 1 to 10 IV bonus points. You can also see pretty good, which can range from 11 to 20. Very good, which range from 21 to 29. Fantastic, which is just 30. And best, which is 31 and is the maximum IV points your Pokemon can get. However, at level 50, which is what competitive Pokemon is played as, it doesn't matter whether your Pokemon has the fantastic IV or the best one, it gives the same result in the end. IVs might be the reason why you've heard the term "I'm breeding for my competitive Pokemon" or "I'm softly setting until I get the right stats." However, in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you don't need to do this since the bottle capsule and the gold bottle capsule is very easy to obtain. So what the normal bottle cap does is that it grows the chosen IV stat of your Pokemon from whatever you have up to Hyper Train, which is essentially the same as a best. However, a gold bottle capsule trains all of your IVs at the same time up to the Hyper Trained level. This can be very valuable if you've caught a shiny Pokemon which doesn't have the right stats for competitive play. Next and final on the list, we have Natures. Natures is way easier to understand and way less complex than EVs and IVs. Natures affects one of your stats which boosts it, while it also hinders another one, and some Natures doesn't even do anything at all, but we won't even focus on those because those are not even relevant for competitive play. So essentially in nature does so your Pokemon's chosen stat gets a boost by 10% while it also hinders another stat for 10% as well. This essentially means that you can boost one of your stats with 10% more than usual, but you lose 10% in another stat in exchange. However, it is not as bad as it might sound at first. Because since you rarely, and when I mean rarely, I mean absolutely never, use a mixed attack on competitive Pokemon, hinder one of your attack stat doesn't really matter. For example, on Fluttermane, this means we can boost its special attack stat with 10% while lowering its attack stat, which it wouldn't even have used in the first case at all. So in my book, that's a win-win. Another reason why taking 10% off in stat can be beneficial is a Trick Room Pokemon again. If you have a Trick Room Pokemon and you want to make it even slower to give it an edge in Trick Room, then hindering its speed stat by 10% can be quite beneficial. So choosing the right nature for your Pokemon can really make or break whether you move first, get KO'd or survive an attack. Although if you don't like the nature of which your Pokemon got hatched or caught with, you can just change it with giving it mints. Mints can be found either on the ground or bought at the Challenger Supply for 20,000 Pokecoins or League points. Alright trainers, I hope this helped you understand better what EVs, IVs and Natures does in Pokemon, and as always, if you have any questions, make sure you leave them down in the comment section below and I'll try my best to answer them, and who knows, maybe your question would be the one that's featured in the next video. And remember, if you want to know how to EV train in Pokemon, then make sure you check out my video. I'll post the link down in the description below. Until next time, happy gaming.